Space Station Alpha, a gleaming beacon of human ingenuity, orbited the massive red sun of the Alpha Centauri system. For decades, the station had served as a vital hub for exploration, research, and trade, standing as humanity's foothold in a distant galaxy. But now, it was under siege. The Corralians hailed from a serene and low-gravity world known as Xyntheria, a planet of rolling plains and shallow seas bathed in perpetual twilight. Evolution on Xyntheria had favored intelligence and resourcefulness over physical prowess. The Corralians, standing only 4 feet tall with delicate frames and elongated limbs, were physically weaker than humans. Yet their brilliant minds compensated for their frailty. Their advanced technology, particularly their mech suits, made them a formidable adversary. The Corralians' mech suits were marvels of engineering. Crafted from lightweight alloys and powered by microfusion cores, these suits amplified the wearer's strength, speed, and durability exponentially. Outfitted with energy-based weapons and adaptive shielding, the Corralians had leveled the playing field against physically stronger species, including humanity. Space Station Alpha's fall began with subtle sabotage. Over several weeks, station personnel experienced unexplained malfunctions, power outages, communication disruptions, and data breaches. The Corralians had infiltrated the station's systems remotely, laying the groundwork for their assault. When the attack finally came, it was swift and brutal. A Corralian strike force arrived in cloaked vessels, bypassing the station's early warning systems. Their mechs tore through security forces with devastating efficiency, while their engineers hacked into the station's defenses, turning its automated turrets against the human crew. Captain Eleanor Hayes, the station commander, led a valiant defense. The corridors of Space Station Alpha became battlegrounds, with firefights erupting in zero gravity. Despite the humans' courage and ingenuity, the Corralians' mech suits gave them an overwhelming advantage. One by one, the station's vital sections fell. As the situation grew increasingly desperate, Lieutenant Marcus Lee, the station's chief communications officer, hatched a daring plan. With the command center overrun and most escape routes cut off, he fought his way to the emergency beacon and the auxiliary control room. Dodging patrols of Corralians and their imposing mechs, Marcus managed to activate the beacon, broadcasting a distress signal to Earth Force Command before he was captured. The beacon's signal traveled across the vast expanse of space, eventually reaching Earth Force Command. The message was grim but clear. Space Station Alpha had fallen to the Corralians, and its human crew were either dead or prisoners. Losing the station would mean not only a devastating blow to human expansion efforts, but also the loss of critical research data and advanced technology stored on board. Earth Force Command immediately convened an emergency session. Retaking Space Station Alpha was deemed a top priority, but the Corralians' occupation and technological edge posed a daunting challenge. That's when the decision was made to call in the Ranger Space Force, humanity's elite team of genetically enhanced warriors equipped with state-of-the-art robotic exoskeletons. The Rangers were no strangers to impossible missions. With their superior training, tactical expertise, and advanced suits, they were humanity's best hope of reclaiming Space Station Alpha. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of courage, ingenuity, and teamwork. As the Rangers received their orders and prepared for deployment, the Corralians fortified their hold on the station. They began converting its systems to suit their needs, erecting defensive perimeters and deploying automated drones. For the captured human crew, life became a harrowing ordeal of forced labor and interrogation. Among them, Marcus Lee held onto a flicker of hope, knowing that his distress call had reached Earth Force Command. Unbeknownst to the Corralians, the Rangers were en route, and their arrival would mark the beginning of a battle that would determine the fate of Space Station Alpha, and possibly the future of humanity's presence in the Alpha Centauri system. The Hallow's breath soared through the void, its powerful engines pushing it ever closer to Space Station Alpha. The corridors hummed with energy, the hum of war preparation vibrating through the deck plating. Deep within the ship, in the armory, the Ranger Space Force gathered, their exoskeletons gleaming under the cold white lights. The scent of lubricants, scorched metal, and ozone filled the air as weapons were prepped and battle systems ran final diagnostics. At the center of the armory stood Master Sergeant Travis Holt, the ship's armorer, a broad-shouldered man with a cybernetic eye and an arm reinforced with thick plating. He stood next to a reinforced weapons rack, grinning as he lifted a small, menacing-looking round between his fingers. "This," Holt said, turning the round in the light, "is what's gonna punch a hole clean through those Corralian mechs." Captain Marcus Steele stepped forward, his red and gold exoskeleton reflecting the overhead lights. He took the round and examined it. "Molten rounds?" he mused, rolling the bullet between his fingers. "A beauty, ain't it?" Holt smirked. Kinetic slug with a copper core. The second it impacts, it superheats to over 4,000 degrees. Burns straight through armor like a blowtorch through butter. If the Corralians are using anything similar to Earth metals, these should give you an edge. Lieutenant Jake Hawkeye Carter whistled, checking the sleek, dark green rifle in his hands. You mean we finally get rounds that don't just bounce off those damn mechs? About time. Sergeant Leo Bull Martinez chuckled, loading a fresh magazine into his heavy repeater. I was getting real tired of just knocking him over and hoping they stayed down. Corporal Alex Ace Griffin inspected one of the rounds with a raised eyebrow. Any chance these overheat our weapons? He asked. Holt shook his head. Not a chance. The rifles are insulated with thermal shielding. You'll feel the heat, but it won't cook your gear. Private Ethan Doc Hayes loaded a magazine into his rifle. If these work like you say, our odds just got a whole lot better. If not, I'll be real busy patching up bullet wounds. Lieutenant Samantha Viper Reynolds smirked as she holstered her sidearm. One way to find out. Holt crossed his arms. Just remember, these rounds punch through armor, but they don't have much stopping power beyond that. You want to hit a vital system, not just make a hole. Captain Steele nodded and locked a full magazine into his rifle. We'll make 'em count. The team marched toward the torpedo bay, where a set of launch tubes had been repurposed for their insertion. They were suited up, their exoskeletons fully powered, weapons secured to their mag-lock harnesses. The Hallow's Breath had positioned itself just outside the station's sensor range, preparing for a stealth approach. Rocket packs operational? Steele asked as they lined up near the launch tubes. All green, Ace confirmed. Trajectory calculated. We'll land at the external storage hold, cut our way in, and make entry. Hawkeye tightened the straps on his harness. Just hope they don't have automated defenses waiting for us. They will, Bull grunted. They always do. Viper cracked her neck. Then we improvise. The countdown began as the launch bay doors slid open, revealing the massive space station ahead, its metal surface illuminated by distant starlight. On my mark, Steele said. 3, 2, 1, launch. One by one, the Rangers blasted from the tubes, streaking through the void like missiles toward the Corralian-held station. The battle was about to begin. The void of space stretched infinitely behind them as the Ranger Space Force team hovered above the exterior hull of Space Station Alpha. Their rocket packs sputtered to a halt as they engaged their magnetic boots, locking them onto the cold metal surface. The station was massive, its darkened hull barely illuminated by the distant glow of Alpha Centauri's twin suns. Captain Marcus Steele raised a fist, signaling the team to hold position. The chosen entry point, a reinforced panel on the station's outer hull, led directly into an auxiliary storage room. If their intel was correct, this would allow them to slip inside undetected. All right, Ace, Steele said over the comms, his voice steady. Start cutting. Corporal Alex Ace Griffin unlatched the plasma cutter from his exoskeleton. On it. He pressed the superheated blade against the thick metal plating, and instantly, sparks flew in all directions. The cutter hummed, melting away the station's armor, forming a precise circular opening. Doc, get the inflatable dock ready, Steele ordered. Private Ethan Doc Hayes unclipped the compact, flexible airlock from his pack and began unfolding it. The material was highly durable, fireproof, airtight, and pressure-sealed. He affixed it around the edges of the cut and activated the inflation mechanism. Within seconds, the tunnel expanded, creating a secure passage into the station. Ace finished the cut. That's it. We're in. Sergeant Leo Bull Martinez stepped forward, pressing his gauntleted hand against the cut section of the hull. With a powerful kick, the metal disc popped inward, landing soundlessly in the storage room. Steele motioned for the team to move. One by one, they stepped into the inflatable dock, then dropped down into the station's darkened storage chamber. The room was dimly lit, packed with crates and spare equipment. No movement. No alarms. Clean entry, Lieutenant Samantha Viper Reynolds whispered. We're still ghosts. Hawkeye crouched near the door, his rifle raised. Not for long. Steele checked his HUD map. Cargo bays 6 corridors down. We move quiet, take out hostiles as needed. No alarms. The team slipped into the hallway, keeping low. Shadows flickered against the metallic walls as they advanced, their exoskeletons making barely a sound. Their first encounter came at a T-junction. 2 Corralian soldiers, their mechs humming softly, stood guard near a maintenance terminal. Steele gave the signal. Viper and Hawkeye moved first. Viper slithered up behind the nearest enemy, her combat knife flashing. She plunged the blade between the armor plates, severing vital connections. The Corralian jerked once, then crumpled. Hawkeye fired his silenced kinetic rifle at the second guard. The molten round punched clean through the mech's torso, leaving a smoking hole. The alien slumped against the wall, dead before it could react. Ace dragged the bodies into an alcove while Doc disabled the enemy comms. "Keep moving," Steele whispered. Corridors passed in tense silence. A few more scattered guards were dispatched with swift, efficient strikes. Not a single alarm had been tripped. Finally, they reached their objective. Just ahead, the massive doors to the cargo bay loomed, thick and reinforced. 2 Corralian guards stood at attention outside, their weapons at the ready. The Rangers ducked into a shadowed alcove. Steele held up 2 fingers, signaling the next move. Hawkeye steadied his rifle. Bull flexed his massive fists. The team was ready. It was time to make their move. The team huddled in the shadows, their breathing steady as they prepared to strike. Steele gave the signal, a clenched fist followed by a slicing motion. Lieutenant Jake Hawkeye Carter moved first, his rifle trained on the 2 guards outside the cargo bay doors. His molten round hit the first Corralian squarely in the head, the mech sensors sparking before it crumpled. The second guard whirled around, weapon raised, but Sergeant Leo Bull Martinez charged forward like a freight train, slamming his armored fist into the mech's chest. The guard fell, sparks flying as Bull's fist crushed the mech's power core. The team approached the thick cargo bay doors. Ace examined the panel, his brow furrowed beneath his helmet. "It's locked down tight," he said. "No way to hack this without time we don't have." Captain Steele nodded. "Then we go loud. Charges, Ace." Corporal Griffin pulled a set of micro-detonators from his kit. "Got to get this just right. Too much, and we risk breaching the hull or hurting the prisoners." He carefully placed the explosives along the seams of the door, measuring the distribution with precision. "Charges set." "Everyone back," Ace said, retreating to the cover of a large support beam. "Fire in the hole," Steele ordered. The explosion was sharp but controlled, sending the massive doors crashing inward. Smoke and debris filled the air, and the muffled shouts of Corralian soldiers erupted from within. "Go! Go! Go!" Steele shouted, leading the charge. The Rangers stormed into the cargo bay, weapons blazing. The Corralians inside, caught off guard, scrambled to return fire. Plasma bolts and molten rounds lit up the dimly lit space as the battle raged. Viper darted between stacks of crates, her agility unmatched. She vaulted onto a higher platform, firing down on the Corralians below. Bull, in the center of the chaos, unleashed a storm of heavy fire from his mounted cannon, his shots tearing through enemy mechs like paper. "Doc! On your 6!" shouted Hawkeye as a Corralian aimed for the medic. Doc spun, firing a quick shot that disintegrated the enemy's weapon and knocked it to the ground. Steele was in the thick of it, taking cover behind a column as he exchanged fire with a group of Corralians. One of the aliens got a lucky shot, striking him in the shoulder. "Captain's hit!" Doc shouted. "I'm fine," Steele growled, clutching his shoulder as he fired his rifle one-handed. "Keep moving." Despite the chaos, the Rangers maintained their formation, methodically taking down each Corralian soldier. As the last Corralian fell, the team scanned the room. Dozens of human prisoners were huddled against the far wall, some injured but alive. Doc rushed to a group of prisoners who had been grazed by stray shots. "These injuries are minor. I can patch them up." Steele pressed a hand to his wounded shoulder and addressed the prisoners. "You're safe now. But we're not done yet. This station is still under enemy control." One of the prisoners, a woman in a torn Earth Force uniform, stepped forward. "Some of us are trained soldiers. If you can arm us, we'll fight." Steele nodded. "Bull, Viper, get these people equipped. We'll need every hand we can get." As the prisoners armed themselves with confiscated Corralian weapons, Steele gathered his team. "We've taken the cargo bay, but we're far from finished," Steele said. "Our options are limited. Either we take back the station piece by piece or we get everyone evacuated safely." "Evac's risky," Viper said. "Corralians have reinforcements in orbit. It's going to be a fight no matter what." Ace chimed in. "I say we retake the station. We'll have control of the systems and can defend ourselves better from inside." Steele glanced at his team, then at the armed prisoners. He nodded. "All right, Rangers. Let's move. The fight's not over yet." The group rallied, determination burning in their eyes as they prepared to face the next wave of challenges aboard Space Station Alpha. The team moved as a unit, each ranger and armed prisoner covering one another as they advanced. The hallways were dim, illuminated only by flickering emergency lights and the occasional glow of Corralian power cores. Every corner held potential danger. "Stay sharp," Steele said, his voice steady despite the tension. "This close to the control center, they're going to throw everything they have at us." At first, they encountered only scattered resistance, small groups of 2 or 3 Corralian soldiers patrolling the corridors. These encounters were brief and decisive, with the Rangers' molten rounds piercing even the thickest of Corralian armor. Ace took point, his scanner constantly searching for hidden enemies. "We're clear for now, but there's a larger heat signature about 50 meters ahead." "Could be a patrol," Viper suggested, her rifle trained on the hallway. "Or an ambush," Hawkeye muttered, keeping his weapon at the ready. When they reached the next junction, a larger group of Corralian troops, at least 10 strong, waited in ambush. Plasma fire lit up the corridor as the Rangers dove for cover. "Return fire," Steele barked. The battle was fierce. Viper darted between crates, taking out enemies with precision shots, while Bull unleashed a torrent of heavy fire, holding the Corralian soldiers at bay. 2 of the new recruits fell to the aliens' plasma weapons, their screams echoing in the confined space. "We can't keep taking losses like this," Doc said, patching up another wounded recruit. "We'll make every loss count," Steele replied grimly. As they approached the main dining hall, Ace's scanner pinged wildly. "I'm reading at least 30 lifeforms ahead," he said. "It's the largest group we've seen yet." The team stopped at the corner leading to the hall. Steele peeked around the edge and confirmed the grim reality. The dining hall was heavily fortified, with at least 30 Corralian soldiers in defensive positions near the entrance. "We're outgunned and outmanned," Bull muttered. "Not for long," Steele said, turning to face his team. His eyes burned with determination. "We've been in worse spots before," Steele began, his voice low but powerful. "We fought battles where the odds were stacked against us, where we lost people we cared about. But we kept fighting because that's what we do. That's what it means to be a ranger." He looked at each of them in turn, Bull's stoic resolve, Hawkeye's unwavering focus, Ace's quiet determination, Viper's fierce intensity, and Doc's steady calm. "They think they can stop us here, but they're wrong. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone on this station who can't fight for themselves. We push through, and we take this station back. No matter what." The Rangers nodded, their resolve strengthened. "Here's the play," Steele said, pointing to the holographic map on Ace's wrist scanner. "Doc and I will sprint across the entrance and set up a crossfire from the far side. Everyone else, hold this position and grab whatever cover you can. Anything that comes out of that door, you light it up crossfire?" Viper asked, raising an eyebrow. "We'll be firing toward each other, yeah," Steele admitted. "But we're Rangers. I trust you to hit your targets, not us." "Got it," Viper said with a smirk. "Don't miss, Hawkeye." "I never do," he replied. Steele and Doc sprinted across the entrance under a hail of plasma fire, narrowly avoiding the deadly bolts. They slid into cover on the far side of the dining hall, setting up their position. Doc called, "Light 'em up!" Steele ordered. The Rangers unleashed a withering crossfire. The Corralian soldiers, caught in the deadly crossfire, fell one by one. Sparks and smoke filled the air as molten rounds ripped through their mechs. The fight was brutal and chaotic. Hawkeye's precision shots dropped enemy after enemy, while Bull's heavy weaponry kept the Corralian reinforcements pinned. Viper moved like a shadow, taking down soldiers with surgical precision. Steele's shoulder ached with every shot he fired, but he pushed through the pain, determined to see the mission through. As the last Corralian fell, the dining hall fell silent except for the hum of cooling weapons and the labored breathing of the team. "That's the last of them," Ace said, scanning the area. Steele leaned against a crate, catching his breath. "We've got to keep moving. The next door leads directly to the control center." The Rangers regrouped, their resolve unshaken despite the heavy toll the battle had taken. Beyond the next door lay their ultimate objective, and the toughest fight yet. The dining hall was a scene of exhaustion and determination. Steele stood in the center, gathering his team and the remaining soldiers who had survived the brutal push. They were battered, low on resources, but far from broken. "The doors to the control room are sealed," Steele announced, motioning toward the massive, reinforced barrier at the far end of the hall. "We're out of explosives, so we'll have to bypass the security. Is there anyone here with technical expertise?" A woman in her mid-30s, wearing a tattered maintenance uniform and gripping a looted Corralian rifle, stepped forward. I've had training in network bypass, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. Good, Steele said with a nod. Get to work on that door. The rest of you, listen up. As the woman set to work on the console, Steele turned to his team. We need a plan for when those doors open. Suggestions? Hawkeye raised a hand, his tone matter-of-fact. We need shields. Anything thick and heavy we can find. Use them to cover ourselves as we breach. They won't hold for long, but they'll give us a chance to get inside and find better cover. Steele nodded. Good thinking. Spread out and find anything that'll do the job. Metal panels, tables, doors. Let's move. The group quickly scavenged the dining hall, finding large metal trays, overturned tables, and even parts of fallen Corralian mechs. The makeshift shields were heavy, but effective. As they worked, Steele kept his eyes on the woman at the console. How's it coming? Almost there, she replied, sweat beading on her forehead. This system's tough, but I've got it. Finally, the woman turned to Steele, a look of triumph on her face. It's done. The door's ready to open on your mark. Steele looked at his team, now armed with their makeshift shields and sidearms. You know the drill. Shields up, stay tight, and push through. No heroics, just keep moving. The team lined up, the shield bearers in front, bracing themselves. Steele gave the signal, and the woman activated the door. The moment the door slid open, a hail of plasma fire greeted them. One of the station soldiers was hit in the side, dropping to the ground with a grunt, but the rest of the group pushed forward. Keep moving, Steele shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The Rangers and their allies poured into the control room. It was a large, circular space filled with consoles and screens, now manned by 20 Corralian soldiers. 2 officers barked orders from a raised platform at the back. The makeshift shields held long enough for the Rangers to reach better cover. Bull and Viper moved to flank the enemy, using the consoles as barriers. Hawkeye and Ace took up firing positions near the entrance, providing covering fire. Molten rounds cut through Corralian armor, and the air filled with the acrid scent of burning metal and alien ichor. The Corralian officers shouted commands, rallying their troops, but the Rangers' precision and relentless tactics began to turn the tide. Doc stayed behind cover, providing medical attention to the wounded soldier from the breach while firing potshots at the Corralian officers. Steele charged forward, taking out one of the officers with a well-placed shot to the chest. The battle raged for 15 intense minutes. The Rangers methodically cleared the room, their training and coordination proving superior to the Corralians' numbers. As the last Corralian soldier fell, the room fell silent save for the hum of the consoles and the labored breathing of the team. We've got it, Steele said, lowering his weapon. Control room secured. Ace immediately went to work on the main console, bringing the station's defenses back online. Moments later, the exterior cannons roared to life, their blasts shaking the station as they targeted the surrounding Corralian ships. On the main screen, the team watched as the Corralian vessels began retreating, unable to withstand the station's firepower. We did it, Bull said, a rare smile breaking across his face. Viper, however, pointed to another screen showing internal cameras. Not all of them. Look. The remaining Corralian soldiers were retreating toward a shuttle bay, preparing to evacuate. Let them go, Steele said after a moment of thought. We've won the day, and we've retaken Space Station Alpha. For the first time since the battle began, the Rangers allowed themselves a moment of relief. They had fought hard and endured losses, but they had emerged victorious. We'll need to secure the rest of the station and regroup, Steele said, his voice steady. But for now, we've done what we came here to do. The team nodded, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and pride. The station was theirs once more.